It's a little bit after 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. And as usual, we open our meetings with the invocation and the pledge. I'd like to ask Mr. Bill Matheny, if he would, to lead us in a word of prayer. And then if everyone would remain standing, I'm going to ask Councilman Bill Bilbrey to lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, Lord, as we humbly bow tonight, Lord, we're so thankful for the many blessings of another day of life, for all His love towards us, for hearing and answering our prayers. We thank you for Jesus most of all. Lord, we pray to Heavenly Father tonight. You look down to Heavenly Father, touch those that are sick. Lord, we know, dear Heavenly Father, that you're able to heal them, Lord, if it's your will. Lord, we ask you to comfort them that's lost their loved ones. Be near to them, dear Heavenly Father. You can comfort it. Only you can. We pray for those that don't know you, Lord, and free pardon of sin, that something be said or done, Lord, to make them see and realize that a heaven to gain and a hell to shun. Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting here tonight. Everything be done according to your will. We'll not fail to bow our head and give you the praise for everything. So we ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Flatt, would you call the roll?
Honorable Mayor Fowler,
Here.
Honorable Vice Mayor Norris,
Here.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey,
here.
Honorable Councilwoman Hawkins,
Here.
and Honorable Councilman Hill is absent.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is to actually consider the agenda as it is presented for tonight. We have had an opportunity to review that, as well as to consider approval of the minutes of the last council meeting. So I will ask council members now if they have looked at that. Are there any corrections to the minutes? All right, I will consider approval of the agenda as it's presented on a motion, and as well as consider approval of the minutes of the last council meeting.
I make a motion we approve the agenda and make a motion we consider and approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, I will ask Ms. Flatt to please call the roll.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins,
Yes.
All right, Mr. Hill is absent, so we'll just note that. We have nothing under old business, but under new business, we have to consider approval to suspend the reading of ordinances 631-19, 632-19, 633-19, and Resolution 326-19. All of those are covered in subsequent items on our agenda, so I would consider a motion to suspend the reading of all of those ordinances in their entirety.
I make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Flatt?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Arnable Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have, the floor will now be open for public comment. This is for the second and final reading of Ordinance 63119. We are considering the approval of second and final reading of that ordinance to amend the All Good zoning code to change all references of special exception and use on appeal to conditional use. And basically that is just clearing up some language, some semantics where all of those things, we want to make clear that it is conditional use. All those references of special exception and use on appeal are to now be considered to conditional use. I will open the floor now. If there's anybody who would like to make a public comment about that zoning code change, would you please step up to the microphone, identify yourself, and let us hear your concerns.
Sherman Whitefield. Is this the one about the apartments and stuff?
No,
No?
no.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Asked and answered, as we say in the law business. All right. Any other comments? Questions? All right. I'm going to move that we now close the public comment section, and then we consider the approval of final reading of Ordinance 63119 to amend the zoning code to change all references of special exception and use on appeal to be conditional use. I'll entertain a motion to that regard.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Flatt, would you call the roll?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Arnable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Arnable Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5. Again, this is going to be open for public comment on the second and final reading of Ordinance 63219. And 63219 is to amend the All Good zoning code to remove multi-family uses and planned residential developments in some districts. Is there anyone who now would like to speak to that issue? All right, Miss Shauna Whitefield, go right ahead.
I've lived here 53 years, and yes, All Good is growing, but I feel like I'm smothered. Everywhere you look. You go that way, you go that way, you go that way, or you go back that way. And I feel like this town is smothered. We've got places that need maybe help to bring their property up to code or up to date. But as a citizen, 2 brand new houses built on Elm Street, looks like it should have been built in where you live, Mayor. So we look like odd people now. And I'm tired of duplexes and apartments. How can the sewer system keep carrying more apartments and duplexes? Will that not have to come in?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the considerations that we'll have to face is, can we provide services and that type of thing.
If you wanna grow, let's grow restaurants and let's paint on buildings and, build this part up.
Yes, ma'am. I understand.
I did see your comment about the former mayors, if you grew up in All Good.
Oh, yes, about trying to list them.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
very, proud of that. I would like to make a recommendation, you don't have to consider it, but I'd like to see the former chief.
Yes, ma'am. I can understand your,
I'd like to honor my father.
absolutely. He was one of our first law officers here in Allgood. And we,
I just like to recommend it, you don't have to do it,
sure.
but I just like
That's
to
just
recommend it.
something that I took on my own,
I
and
know.
and I can undertake that one as well. So I'm proud to say that when your dad was here, we didn't have the turnover that we have experienced since. I used to kid and say there should be a revolving door on the police department because that's how soon we were going through. But that's not the case anymore. And
That's another thing, I appreciate what Chief Armour and his department is doing. I appreciate what Victor and his guys are trying to do, because Elm Street's about to fall off, and they're aware of it, and they've come and looked, Keith's come and looked. Every time I've called, Keith's tried to help me out.
well, that's funny. He never returns my calls. No.
Keith returned the mayor's
No.
calls.
When I need him, would you
Well,
call
for
him?
example,
No,
when
I'm
they
I'm
built
just
the house-
teasing. He's always answered my calls.
Well,
Let's not
for
go away.
example, when they started building the two houses,
Yes, ma'am.
Sue Eldridge, deceased, her property got flooded. It was going down the street. I'm tired of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And then people on the other side of the street building ditches on their property to bring it to our side of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Their
Thank you.
personal Property, you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Could call me yes, ma'am.
It's my southern upbringing. I'm supposed to say
Well,
ma'am
yeah,
and sir.
I know.
I-
But I'm proud of our police department, I really, really am.
Thank
And
you.
I'm proud of our chief. He's
Thank you.
friendly, he's outgoing, and I'm proud of you, I'm proud of every council member. But please, please, stop this building.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Whitefield.
I'm Sherry Heaton, and I would like to say that I agree with her. No more building. We've got houses and then apartments. And we got enough of that stuff in August, right inside the city limits anyway. We pay city taxes and county taxes, so I think that we should pay enough. And apartments, do they pay taxes? No, they don't. We do.
Okay.
We have to go and, take it for them.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who wishes to say anything? Yes, sir.
Yes, members of council, my name's Eric Walker. I'm not a resident of Allgood, however, we do have a business on 420 Dry Valley Road, which is in the city limits. It's located right next to Allgood School and 500 West Dry Valley, between Brookside subdivision. And it's about 5 acres right there. Operates as a construction operation right now. Walker Construction Company has its operations operate out of there. When we bought that property and took a look at it, we had in mind that we would operate out of there and then hopefully develop it in the future. And I think that these changes to the zoning code would prohibit us from doing that. And it would have to remain, for our purposes, a construction company right in there in what is a highly residential area. And there isn't, the way the property's shaped, it's not in a shape or a design where single-family homes would be as viable in that area. And it would just remain a commercial activity right next to those residential spots. Now, I think zoning code are very important. I think they can shape how the city is built. I sympathize with those people who see a massive amount of growth and want to curb that growth. This doesn't just go after multifamily apartments. It doesn't allow for any approvals of planned residential areas or things that the council or planning commission might consider otherwise. And, it kind of stops that from happening. And so it kind of, in a way, it devalues the properties in this area, because we can no longer, it's sending a message that we can't purchase property and redevelop it. In your downtown area, specifically, I'm talking about the CA parts of the section. You know, they're items. Be happy to kind of go in a little closer on that, but and it's not just the apartments and residential, but it's what is zoned commercial areas already. It's not where you're going into a residential area and you have a lot of the duplex right now are built in R2s or R3 zonings. This is the commercial areas, and our commercial area happens to sit beside an industrial use area, and it acts as a buffer between residential use and that industrial use. And so if you take out the residential out of the commercial portion of that, you're basically saying that you don't want that buffer anymore, that you want it to remain commercial. That's how we would look at it, and you know, it'd be hard pressed for us to try to go in and change that. You also got your downtown areas there. Some of that's zoned CB or CA as well. And you know, when you're trying to build up that commercial activity downtown, I mean, we've got the big box store here. We've got a lot of that's happening now, but things are changing. People are getting more deliveries at home. You know, I think long term in the future, for small business to survive and keep small store space, it's going to rely on people living close to business districts and having as many people possible living in that area. When we were all small towns long ago, everyone lived in the town center. And the way zoning's working now, we're pushing that further and further away from the city centers. This would push any kind of townhomes, any kind of planned areas outside the city of Algood. And there, you know, if you're building townhomes for, you know, and that's been a very viable thing lately. More elderly people are considering townhomes over single family homes because they're easier to maintain and easier to take care of. And so if that pushes those developments outside the city of Algood, it's more likely that those residents would use other areas to do their business. And so that would be my argument towards that. In my specific case on our property that we've already got, you know, it's going to force us to remain a commercial property and not have that residential opportunity to change a commercial area into a residential area. And so for that reason, I would vote no. And also, there's a section of that ordinance that it's sections 10 and 11, I believe. It's where it says Article 6 refers to zoning gets complicated.
Yes. We're trying to uncomplicate it.
Yeah, supplementary regulations. And so I didn't know if that was just maybe I'm misreading something, but Article 6 is supplementary regulation, and then there is no subsections under that. So, you know, I would like to see good zoning in the city of Algood and it develop in a way that is friendly towards the local people. But I know that's a difficult process, and a lot of towns and cities do adopt model zoning regulations. I know that these are kind of built on over time, and so I would be happy to help or discuss any way possible to build a good zoning for Algood that doesn't encourage growth towards that downtown area. But in our case, it really prohibits that in that area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other public comments?
I was just about to say, if it's a business now, see what like it is with if he's got a business now, he doesn't live now, but does he want it to be residential? Or he can build something on it, or, that's what I'm wondering.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. Appreciate the input. I think we understand what.
He's wanting to close the business and put in homes, or apartments or whatever. I don't think that's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Stay a business if it's a business, not going to people's backyards like they've already done to me.
All right, having heard from the public regarding ordinance 632-19, I will close the public comment section, and I will ask if we want to, if I hear a motion for an approval of ordinance 63219, which amends the zoning code to remove multifamily uses and planned residential developments in some districts.
Section 10 and Section 11, Mr. Walker pointed out, Kevin should have made those Article 5, Section 4C1, and Article 5, Section 4C2. So those are not Article 6, as Mr. Walker pointed out.
Thank you for that
So
correction.
we need to make that amendment to this ordinance before you pass it.
All right. Okay. So we would be amending Article 6 to only read Section 6.
Section 10 and Section 11 to read Article 5
Article,
instead of Article 6.
I see.
So Section 10 would be replaced with Article 5.
And Section
And
11.
Section 11 would be replaced with Article 5
Okay.
in place of Article 6.
Okay, that would make both of those 5 then.
Correct.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion for, to amend the Allgood zoning code, ordinance 63219, from multifamily uses and planned residential developments in some districts, along with the amendment that Section 10 should read Article 5 and Section 11 should also read Article 5. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion among the council? Ms. Black?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, the 6th item on the agenda is the approval of first reading of ordinance 63319 to amend the fiscal year 18 to 19 budget. And as I understand it, that is basically we're just moving money to finish purchasing a Durango for the police department from the drug fund to the fund that it needs to go into to make the purchase, and then the money can be transferred as it should be. Keith, I've probably made that as clear as mud. Do you want to explain to them?
This is moving $25,000 from the drug fund balance, which is the unaccounted balance, to the drug fund expense line. $25,000, so that's a net zero change. Still leaves $49,000 plus in the drug fund balance, and we've had a healthy return on the drug fund revenue this year. So this is just moving it to purchase the Durango, as we spoke of earlier. So this is the official ordinance making that happen.
Yeah, this is just basically a housekeeping matter, so we can move money from one line to another so we can complete the purchase that we've already approved. So I will consider a motion for ordinance 63319 to amend the fiscal year budget 1819 to accomplish that switch.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Is there any discussion? Excuse me. All right, Ms. Flapp?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 7, it's consider approval to surplus the 2006 Chevrolet Impala. We heard the details yesterday about the car, but Mr. Morrison may want to enlighten us as to everyone about why we would be moving this car to surplus.
It's a 2006 Chevrolet Impala. It was bought from State Surplus years ago. I'm not exactly sure what year it was purchased. was before I came here. Jim Eldridge drove it for years. We've used it for other things and tried to keep it in service as much as possible. We've been having trouble keeping the battery up and can't figure out what's draining it down. We've tried everything to stop that. Continues to drain the battery down, so at this point, when you drive it out, we're having to go jump them back off, so we're just going to ask for surplus sale and auction it off and move it out of the way.
Okay. I will consider a motion to approve the surplus of the 2006 Chevrolet Impala.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Ms. Flatt, please call the roll.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Item 8, consider approval to transition the phone and internet to Twin Lakes to allow the same provider that is utilized by 911 and the county. I think also, if Mr. Morrison wants to explain, he has done the work on this and has factored in that if we make this switch, that we will be saving money for All Good as well. And so if we want to stay with the same provider, we can, or we can transition to Twin Lakes, which also is the same one that the county utilizes and the 911 system. Do I have a motion, or is there a need for some discussion?
I make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any other, or is there any discussion at all? Okay, Ms. Flatt?
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay, item 9, consider approval of resolution 326-19 implementing a fleet management plan. Mr. Morrison, would you like to just speak to that?
Ken, this is the final step to the fleet management plan. Now that we've got new cars in the fleet and have started the sell-off, we know about where we need to be. So the anticipated replacement for police cars is 3 units per year, which will be 2 patrol units and 1 administrative unit per year. The 3 units coming in would replace 3 years that units that have been here not to exceed 5 years. Anticipated resale cost return on those is about $15,000 a car. We'll see how that goes. We've got a lot of interest in the one we're selling now, so we hope this will help replenish the fleet and keep maintenance costs lower, and also help us keep better cars in the system where it doesn't cost us as much money down the road. This also includes the Public Works fleet, which is set at 7 units, including the 2 administrative vehicles. This is mine and Victor's. My vehicle figures into the Public Works fleet plan. That way, as we get new ones, I pass mine down, Victor passes his down, and we continue to replenish the Public Works vehicles. The regular duty trucks have been in need of replacement for several years. They've got by on vehicles with holes in the floorboard and maintenance issues, and it's not a big deal as long as they're not driving too far, but when they continually stay broke down, it makes it hard for us to complete tasks that we need to complete. The fleet lifespan of the regular Public Works trucks is expected not to exceed 6 years. Certain vehicles required for special purpose of heavy-duty hauling or a tool bed includes a crane service truck, a water sewer maintenance truck, and 1 heavy-duty truck for hauling. The useful life of these vehicles is expected to be 6 to 10 years depending on level of use. We have utilized some used automobiles in this line to try to save money with the hopes that we can still get 6 to 10 years out of those vehicles. They are low mileage, but they are used to haul and do a lot of things. The specialty trucks are expected to have an 8 to 10 year life cycle as the frontline truck and include the brush truck. The brush truck is a 1994 cab. However, the truck only had 10,000 miles on it when we got it several years ago. We were able to upfit it with a brush bed for about $52,000. A typical brush truck would cost us in excess of $120,000, so that was about half price that we saved on that. The 2 residential trash trucks, one is a 2004, one is a 2013. The commercial trash truck is a 2018. We just purchased a snowplow dump truck in 2019. We also have a 2006 and a 2000 dump truck that we still use. The anticipated secondary use on those should not exceed 25 years. And so that way we keep those in better shape as well. Other equipment not included this is to be determined by department head and city administrator on an as-needed basis. This need will be based on current condition, anticipated use, and cost of maintenance for continued use of the equipment.
All right. Are there any questions of the council regarding the fleet management plan? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 326-19 implementing the written fleet management plan.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ms. Flatt, please call the roll.
Mayor Fowler,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilberry,
Yes.
Honorable Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay. Now I think it's time for Mr. Morrison's portion.
The Main Street paving project is underway. As many of you have noticed, the Walmart red light has been turned off of loop cycle, which means it does not recognize when vehicles pull up to the light. It is currently on a timed schedule, which does experience some delays at time. The new loops were installed Friday and will be hooked up to a new controller that will be considered a more smart controller. It will be hooked to fiber, which will also allow it to be connected to the Burton Branch and 111 lights, which will allow better flow of traffic we anticipate in the whole area. They will be doing the final coat of paving hopefully this week, as well as striping. When they do the striping for that section of new pavement on Main Street, it will include all of Main Street from 111 to 111. So the striping on the other side that's starting to fade will be replaced and updated. This will be thermoplastic striping, which is reflective and should last longer. So we're hoping for a good return on this, as well as improvement in the Walmart intersection. It will have heavy duty pavement for the heavy truck traffic that goes through there. That should alleviate the washboarding effect that was occurring in the previous pavement that was there and was getting really bad towards the end. So bear with us on the Walmart light. We promise it will be much better when we get done. We're hoping to have those loops reactivated by the end of this week, first of next week, and so it should start cycling just like it used to. The other events that we've got going on are the fire hall, landscaping, and paving. We're expected to be completed this week or next, depending on weather. Those are the only remaining items on the fire hall for completion. The fire hall will also have the heavy-duty paving around the back where the engine 1 goes around, so that we don't have pavement tearing up in those areas as well. The Easter egg hunt at the White Plains home is scheduled for April the 20th, 2019. There will be approximately 600 eggs with a grand prize for each of the 3 categories of kids that are Easter egg hunting, as well as free pictures with the Easter Bunny, sponsored by First National Bank. The Let Freedom Ring event for this summer for July 4th has been scheduled for July 29th from 5 to 9. And there will be more details coming on that later. I'm sorry, June 29th. June 29th. Chief, do you have anything to add?
Just Safe-Wise is a consumer advocate group that's labeled all good as the 22nd safest city in the state of Tennessee out of 122 cities. Like to be number 1, but 22 out of the top 25. It's a good place for us to start.
Chief's going to make Final Four next year. As Victor's pro tem, I have nothing else to add to this.
All right. At this time, we hear from citizens. If you have anything to say, we ask you to come up to the podium and please introduce yourself. And we need to limit our remarks to at least not over 3 minutes so that we give everyone a chance to speak. Not another quiet crowd tonight, so not. Sure. What about the egg hunt?
Did you want to address?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think he has them divided into age categories, and unfortunately, that'll limit a lot. I know you're pointing at me. I'm not hunting either. No.
12 and up, but I've got a spot for the Easter Bunny if you'd like to step in.
Oh, are we put you down on as the volunteer? Oh, look there. I've heard that suit's kind of warm, but anyway. Thank you for your volunteer spirit. All right, not having anything else on our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We couldn't be any faster than that. I don't think anybody will say no, so we are adjourned. Thank you.